So it's about time for our annual check-in on our old friend Destiny 1. It's going to be 10 years old soon, which is crazy. I still remember the alpha and beta a lot.
Can I just say that emblem right here is still, in my opinion, one of the sexiest emblems Bungie's ever done. Wasn't this the Bungie bounty emblem from D1? Anybody remember this emblem? That's a mid emblem. What? This emblem, the weight that it carried. Low mid, it's a very mid. Back in the day, people used to be impressed with this emblem. Now the kids, the new generation, the TikTok brain, no one, they want flames. They want a lot of RGB buzz. I don't know. We used to look at this and you used to think, wow, that's a Guardian right there.
It's happened since then, but do people still play Destiny 1, and how many, and what is there to do these days in this forgotten relic? Is it still playable? I wanted to hop on and check out the current state of the game, because as I flew into the tower, there are actually loads of people in here, which always surprises me. Anytime I load in over the past few years, the tower always seems to be full. And what's interesting is that this game is still across 3 generations. So
what the heck? Dude, this tower, there's a lot of people in it. Guys, this is Destiny 1 in 2024. Who here in the stream right now plays Destiny 1 as like one of your regular games?
So some of these players you can see are on PS3 and 360, while most will be on PS4 and Xbox One, and some are on PS5 and Series X. Now, of course, Destiny 1 isn't and probably never will be on PC, so we can't see exact player counts or numbers. Obviously, the player base has declined since Destiny 2 came out, but in a moment, we're going to look at PvE and also PvP to see what's playable, as honestly, there are a lot of modes which are not playable because you simply cannot find a match, and some which are completely fine, and there are some tricks to it that can help. But a lot of people forget this was one of the last games on PS3 and 360 and still runs really well to this day. And even Crucible games will have PS3 players against PS5 players. So of course, PS5 and Series X is pretty much just a PS4 and Xbox One port. They are still—
Dude, I gotta know, man. Is anyone in this stream right now on a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 who actively plays Destiny 1? I gotta know. It's 2024 right here. Who's still doing it? I used to. There's no way someone in here is still actively playing. Now, here's the thing. Hold on. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you were on the Xbox 360 and you played Destiny 1, aren't you still playing with pre-Rise of Iron sandbox? Like, don't you have the old sandbox? That's wild, man. That's wild. It's essentially like the Taken King meta. That's crazy. I gotta give it to D1 players, man. This is love. This is dedication. And also, like, just seeing this right here makes me wonder. And it's not that I like want Destiny 1 to become a game that overshadows Destiny 2, but man, it would be cool to do like a vanilla launch, like an old school launch of D1, but for all platforms, PC included.
Still on 30 FPS. They've got the same FOV. The only difference is they have more consistent frame rates, so they're not going to drop down as much when things get crazy. And they also have faster load times and faster going in and out of menus because they're SSDs. So it's a tiny advantage, but not massive. Now, Bungie stopped updating this game and there are no patches or changes. They still do take this game down for maintenance and do some tweaks and server fixes, but what you see now is forever what is going to remain unless Bungie do some kind of surprise 10th year update. Destiny 1 is basically frozen in time. They stopped doing most events, so Trials, Iron Banner haven't come around since 2017, and of course no Festival, no Dawning, Crimson Days or SRL like they used to be. But while there is no Trials or Iron Banner, Bungie did actually do a really cool fix where they added loot from those modes into these bounties, which is probably one of the most fun things to chase right now, as well as the other top tier weapons like the Ice Luna, the Longbow, the LDR, the Matador.
Oh my god, dude, those, which I know we have these weapons here in Destiny 1 now, you know, especially like Ice Luna and things, but Ice Luna, that god roll completely evaded me. It was rangefinder, hidden hand, rifle barrel. I think it was that one. I think it was rifle barrel. That one evaded me. I played so much Crucible to try to get that to drop and just never would happen.
Top tier weapons like the Ice Luna, the Longbow, the LDR, the Matador. There's also Arms Day where you can order a weapon from the gunsmith, and the following Wednesday you can choose from really good rolls. Xur still does show up, same as usual on weekends if you're missing anything. And also Eververse is interesting. You can actually still buy silver.
Dude, I completely forgot Nemesis Star. I forgot this exotic. I would say out of all the exotics from Destiny 1, this is the one for some reason when we bring up exotics, I completely forget that this one exists. It was Doo-Doo. I don't remember it being very standout. Same as Zen Meteor. Yeah, I still remember Zen Meteor more than Nemesis Star. Oh, there's a PlayStation exclusive until Rise of Iron. Was it really?
You can actually still buy silver for some reason if you wanted to. So Bungie is still making money from this game. Even though you can't buy items anymore, it's just these treasure packages, which you can also earn from just playing the game from bounties and stuff like that. But these give you random items like emotes and ornaments, like this Touch of Malice one that I got. Now on PS3 and 360, things are slightly different. They don't have, of course, Rise of Iron, which is when Bungie stopped developing for those consoles. And there's also no longer cross-save since 2016. There was a cutoff where character progression was split. So things you do on PS3 won't be reflected on PS4. Xur is different. He doesn't have a rotation of exotics. He only has engrams from year 1 and 2. And you also can't buy silver on here. There is also the Reef social space, which doesn't have much going on at all. It never really did, but you got Petra, the old Queen's Wrath vendor. Varix has got some prison stuff. Master Ives is the Cryptarch. There's this secret spot where you can get under the map, which is always pretty cool. Brother Vance, the old Trials vendor, and a...
Dude, y'all remember Brother Vance? We actually used to think he was pretty cool. And then with the D2 version of him came out, and he definitely... Like right here, this looks like something out of like Assassin's Creed. You know what I mean? We thought Brother Vance was pretty cool, and then just completely flipped the script and Curse of Osiris.
Old Trials vendor, and a very helpful light switch, so you can turn this lamp on or off. The third social space, Felwinter Peak, is a lot more interesting. This has got Shiro 4, he's got some Vanguard stuff, there's a bunch of wolves hanging out. Saladin's got some stuff. Even though Ephrodite took over as the Iron Banner vendor, he's still here. Tyra Khan is the Cryptarch. In the temple, it's got an Easter egg where you can ring the bells in order and you get a trophy or achievement. You got the jumping puzzle up the mountain, which is one of the coolest features in a social space. And there are also these really rare ice and fire tokens from the Wrath raid, and these launch you over the door where you can get to what you'll probably recognize as the Vostok map, which is actually a massive space you can run around and explore. But this was definitely one of the best social spaces. As far as Easter eggs, really cool area.
And, you know, notice too that, you see how this has got like the metal siding right here? So we saw the Vostok map in Destiny Rising, correct? The PvP map. That's actually not the D2 version of that. That's the D1 version of that. This version is what's the PvP map in Destiny Rising. It's the siding right here.
As far as Easter eggs, really cool area. Now, PvE and PvP are quite different stories these days, as most PvE you don't need matchmaking. Nice thing about Destiny 1 is you can pick any story mission at any time from the map if you want to revisit them for some fun. Although, like I said before, PvE is a bit more boring compared to Destiny 2. It's a lot slower, you feel way less powerful, and you don't have these crazy strong builds. Destiny 2 has definitely gone miles ahead in that front, but the Strike playlist has still got plenty of players, so you shouldn't have any difficulty searching for games. And also something super random I never understood is that Patrol has a difficulty selector. It's almost like at one time they might have planned to have different levels, but I don't know, it's always looked strange to me. But now let's talk about Crucible. And speaking of PvP...
Can I just say, was Destiny 1's UI layout just cleaner? Maybe it's just because it's not as big of a game as Destiny 2, and so like we don't have as many options that need to be thrown up on the screen. But like the UI just seems cleaner right here. And then not only that, like when he was in the tower walking around, or even like through here, like there's been like a shift in art direction.
And these launch you over the door. Wait,
like I really like, this is such a timeless, even though it's 30 FPS and stuff, it's just such a timeless look in my opinion, the D1 look. By the way, this is the Plague Lands. This was tied to Rise of Iron, was tied to Siva, which for some reason Bungie never talks about. Does Bungie ever mention anything about Siva? Have they said a single thing of like, is there a future for Siva? Was it really just filler content and that's it? Bungie went from more sci-fi in Destiny 1 to more fantasy. That's why D1 was better. I like the contrast. I really do. I feel like you can have both, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Destiny 2 is more in the fantasy, has more fantasy elements. They said the Siva story is over. Okay, right, the Siva story is over. Everybody give up on it. Okay. Siva killed a bunch of warlords, but they were just bitches, obviously, because they died to fill their content.
So jumping into PvP, searching for a game is a big issue. A lot of times it will take so long that you get the Mongoose error code where it times out after like 10-15 minutes and you have to search again. Your best bet is either this first one that rotates between Control and Clash, or the weekly Crucible mode here, which was Combined Arms at the time. All these other ones simply don't have enough players. So there are some bounties and challenges that require these modes that aren't really doable. Combined Arms is the vehicle one set on these special big maps that are exclusive to this playlist. And I actually really enjoyed it. And a pro tip.
Yes, Bungie used to give us huge maps with vehicles.
These heavy pikes are still ridiculously broken. Not the regular brown pikes or the interceptors, these blue ones. If you just strafe side to side, you shoot out these seeking mines that just magically bounce towards enemies and are so strong. I definitely annoyed a lot of people in these, but the best time to try and search for a game would be around nighttime in Europe, which is around evening time in America, and of course the weekends when most people would be on. So when you do find the lobby, you'll probably be playing with the same players for the rest of the day, so you'll get used to seeing a lot of familiar names and a few kind of drop in and out. But skill-based matchmaking doesn't really exist here, as there isn't really enough players for it. But it definitely does not mean that Crucible now is a cakewalk by any means.
No,
you get a weird mix
not.
of some really good hardcore players that never stop playing, and some new players that aren't very good or ones that hopped on after years of not playing. The special ammo situation is one thing I really wish they would fix, but they probably won't. But you get some at the very start of the game, and then for the rest of the match, you only get it by picking up a box or off an enemy you killed that just had some. So it's really hard to get. This is because specials were quite strong in year 3, so this is Bungie's attempt to fixing it or just kind of doing what they can to address it. But it doesn't really work. I wish they'd make it so that you could always spawn with at least a tiny bit. But that's why sidearms are also really strong, because they always have ammo, as well as you got the good old icebreaker, which you see a lot. This has, of course, infinitely spawning ammo. You can't pick up special, it just charges on its own, but you also never have to reload, which is nice. And the invective, which also charges ammo, but you can pick up special ammo to add to it, but it also does need to be reloaded. But those are the two main guns that bypass the kind of weird ammo system. Some of you might remember that heavy ammo is also very different in this game. So it spawns at once for both teams and you need to group up and grab it. And it creates this kind of moment of mayhem as everyone's got some, and you can be smart and just wait for most people to burn theirs so you can be one of the only ones with it. But it's also quite stressful because you need to make sure everyone is close while also not sitting there like a duck if an enemy decides to come super a bunch of you. But it is a lot more chaotic, and I do think I kind of prefer heavy being condensed into this one event, and then it's kind of back to normal and nobody has heavy. So the heavy in this game is very different. I kind of miss it, but let me know what you guys think, if you prefer this old system or Destiny 2's one. So I played quite a lot on the Void Warlock. I use these to...
I think, dude, the thing that's just striking me right now is just how many Destiny 1 maps we had. I would take these maps inside of D2. I think they would play well in D2, but we had so many good maps.
This is the Warlock only exotic, where if you have your super charged but don't use it, the gun just becomes insanely strong with like double the fire rate and stability and handling. So it's still like a massive damage gun, but you can fire it really quickly.
Yeah. So this is to lock right here, guys. Essentially, yes, you hold your super and then the weapon like overcharges and becomes extremely deadly. And so it's like starts off as like a normal like 180 round per minute scout rifle, very basic, and then but when you have your super, that shit just amps up. And by the way, it is exclusive to Warlock. Like back then, Bungie would give us like exclusive weapons, exclusive exotics. Okay.
A massive damage gun, but you can fire it really quickly and it just melts. Then I also played quite a lot on the Striker Titan, so I could use the Twilight Garrison. This is one of the best exotics in the game, and Titans are still begging for it to be added in Destiny 2, which probably won't happen. It is really good. It lets you strafe boost around basically like Icarus Dash, but movement in Destiny 1 is really slow, especially with the field of view and the frame rates. This definitely kind of makes up for it and makes you feel a lot more mobile.
Again, Twilight Garrison, it's an air dash. It's Icarus Dash that Warlocks have. And by the way, Warlocks don't even have to waste an exotic slot for this. They just gave it to you fuckers as just part of your subclass. But for Titans, we actually had to burn an exotic for this, but it was good. It was good. And I would actually take it back here inside of D2.
Oh. I also use my good old favorite, the Seros Dis 47 Scout Rifle. Some of you longtime viewers will remember, I think this is one of the best guns in the game that not many people know about. You get it from Arms Day, and this is a very rare one that's got max stability and full auto. Might not seem like crazy perks, but it basically is all you need. It's like a slow firing auto rifle that's also a laser beam, and of course it's still a scout rifle, so it's got massive range, and the thing is just always my go-to. It's so...
I tell you what, maybe it's the FPS and field of view, but man, dude, we are so much faster now. When you come around the corner to get a flank on somebody right now, dude, people are dashing everywhere, Icarus dashing everywhere, thrusting everywhere, rolling on the ground multiple times. Like, I mean, and then not only that, like mouse and keyboard, so people are just like whipping around and immediately picking you up on the flank. Like, it's just like movement is just way more twitchy now inside of D2 than it was in D1. Yeah, and also our melees too, our melees. People are zooming, man, inside of PvP.
Go to. It's so easy to use. And there's also the Clever Dragon. This too is like a rapid fire melt machine. It's better for close range and kind of rushing around, and definitely is good for the striker.
This is the weapon that defined, I would say, PvP in year 3 of Destiny 1. Clever Dragon, rapid fire. Bungie came out the gate and said, hey, here's a max stability roll with counterbalance, which back then counterbalance was an actual like trait on the gun. But it was, I think Sturdy said it best. It was the equivalent of last word as far as strength goes, whenever last word was at its peak in year 1. And I know some of you think we may be over exaggerating. Keep in mind, yes, last word dominated, but it had the balancing of Thorn and Hawk Moon, and I think like Hopscotch as well in there. Clever Dragon, it really didn't have any competition outside of maybe if you had a Godroll Grasp, which most people didn't have because of RNG. And then not only was daily up close, but also mid-range because it was a rapid fire pulse.
Titan. Another really random thing I'd forgotten about in this game is the 3 of coins. You can get these from Xur, and it's pretty weird. You can pop 1 and it gives you this buff where your next boss kill or crucible match completion has a higher chance of giving you an exotic engram. It stacks, but in kind of a weird way, where every time you get a boss or complete the crucible match, it uses the buff. But every time it gets used and you don't get an exotic, the next time you pop it, it will have an even higher chance of dropping one. So I got one in my Postmaster. Obviously, I've got every exotic, but it's still pretty funny. It gave me a Warlock exotic, which is also something we had back in Destiny 1, where you can get exotics for classes you aren't even using. It was like a troll, but back in the day, you might only play on one class and you end up getting exotic for a class you don't even have yet or have on.
Oh, dude, or even better yet, you got downgraded, right? Nothing like turning in a purple to then get a blue item, right? I would say, though, exotic engrams inside of D2 are just so plentiful that I don't even think we need something like 3 of coins, to be honest.
Unlocked, but just one of those random Destiny 1 quirks. Also, those Treasure of Ages packages are nice. You can still earn them and they aren't super rare, so you can get a random bunch of emotes or consumables or ornaments, which normally back in the day you'd have to spend quite a bit of money on back when they were sold. So it's nice you can still earn them without buying silver. But Bungie did quite a good job of putting this game into kind of legacy mode where it's still playable and there's still some stuff to do and earn considering how much was removed. I have seen a growing trend of people pointing out how little Destiny 1 content had, or especially compared to Destiny 2, and a lot of hot takes that the expansions weren't as good as people think. And I definitely agree that nostalgia is a powerful thing, but I also think that just because people have nostalgia for something that's in the past doesn't make it any less relevant because it's in the past. I mean, obviously this game's best times are definitely behind us, but if someone has a good experience that still sticks with them today, I think it's a sign of how good that thing actually was, because it's lasted and stood the test of time and you didn't forget about it like we do most things. But just because it's in the past doesn't make it any less good, in my opinion. I never thought it made sense to compare Destiny 1 to 2 because one led to the other and you don't have one without the other, but Destiny 2 should be better in every way. They've had 10 years of learning to improve it, and I think Destiny 2 is better in almost every way, but still Destiny 1 was very much ahead of its time. A lot of critiques on Destiny 1 are only noticeable because they've now been fixed or improved upon in Destiny 2. So hindsight is always 2020, but I think for a game that came out in 2014 on PS3 and 360, it is still very impressive. I see a lot of low levels in the tower with brand new accounts that look like they're playing for the first time. And the nice thing about this game is the entire campaign from start to finish is still playable. It's a very complete game. Unlike Destiny 2, where Vanilla, the Red War, Curse of Osiris, Warmind, and Forsaken, one of the best campaigns ever, are completely gone. You cannot play them ever unless they bring them back, which is unlikely. So Destiny 2 begins at Shadowkeep essentially, but of course there are technical reasons for that. But Destiny 1, even 10 years later, is still complete and you can still play and have a lot of fun. As we saw in this video, there are quite a few match-made modes that aren't populated enough to play, which is a shame, but it's kind of to be expected. But at least what is playable.
Look, I'm gonna say this about the campaign for Destiny 2. I know there's like technical limitations, or so Bungie said, right? There were some technical limitations to why the game was getting too big, whatever else. But dude, just do what Call of Duty does, right? Just have the campaign separated. Somehow make it possible for someone to come in, like if they want to play just the campaign and have the campaign experience. Maybe they could just do like a separate download of the campaign and just play the campaign start to finish, literally all of them. You want to do every single campaign piece ever made for Destiny 2, you could do all of them in a single download. Call of Duty isn't a live service though. Okay, I'm gonna let you think about that for just a little bit longer. However, let's get back to the main topic, the campaign. How can you transfer? Because what people like inside of Destiny is the ability to go farm up stuff inside of the campaign, like get certain exotics or certain pieces of gear, and then take that piece of gear into the live game. And if it's a separate download, how would those items transfer over to your main character? You see what I mean? Would that even be possible? And if it wasn't possible, would you still be okay with just having the campaign as a downloadable experience just for the sake of experience? It would be so out of context though, Cross. Well, I mean, that's where like Bungie would have to come in and either make like, either they could literally start from Red War campaign and have chapters for each one of the campaigns and do like all the missions for each of the campaigns in them, or go in there and just do like a, you know, a Cliff Notes consolidated version of each one of the campaigns, kind of like what they already do now in Destiny 2. But man, that's difficult because there's a lot that happens in the campaigns that requires us to go out and just like the world and do shit, especially at the older campaigns. Destiny is the only game I've seen that gets content removed. I'm trying to think, is there any other game that has removed content before? Concord removed content. Jesus Christ, dude. Dude, it's too soon, man. It's too soon. That studio got shut down. Okay. Genshin Impact removes content on a yearly basis. Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is in a world of like technicalities that I just don't know. I would need someone to come in and be like, you know, someone that has experience with games, like from a developer side, from games like Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, to World of Warcraft, you know, essentially all these like long time running live service games, and talk about what are the limitations of your game becoming too big. How do some of these games able to maintain, you know, all of their content? Because I don't think Final Fantasy cuts any of their content, right? 14, has it removed anything? I think if anything, they've just removed some of the shittier portions of the campaign. No offense to my Final Fantasy players, but man, that shit can drag. Yeah, so if Final Fantasy hasn't cut, if they haven't done sweeping campaign removals, my question is like, what is it that they possess from a technical standpoint? What is it that they possess that allows them to continue to almost keep growing? Warframe is a prime example of that. Has Warframe ever cut out content? They've restructured content, right? Warframe's restructured their campaign, right? They're like their onboarding process. They took out the raids. Were the raids just not popular in Warframe? Is that why they took them out? Or what was the reason why they removed raids? They were buggy. Oh, so not from a mechanical sense, but they were just like full of bugs. That's interesting. They couldn't just get it fixed though.
It's still very solid, and it's nice now and again to be able to just hop back on and play the original. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll be reading them all. You can also drop a like on the video if you enjoyed. Maybe I'll do more of these.
Good video, man. I don't know. I'll get a nostalgia trip every now and then and like just kind of go back and watch some like old footage from D1 days. What a time, man. I think what Destiny 1, what it really possessed was just like people just hadn't figured the game out. And that's part of the magic of new game launches, right? It's like, what is this game? What are its systems? And, you know, we spent, I would say, a good year and a half trying to narrow down like what those systems are and how, and just trying to figure out the game. And then while simultaneously getting updates with the Taken King, Rise of Iron, and whatever else, man, that can continue to expand on that. Destiny 2, with it being out for as long as it's been out, I would say it's solved. Like Destiny 2's formula is solved. It doesn't really present something that has really changed things up. Like, yes, from a sandbox perspective, things have definitely changed. Prismatic was a big shift in that. But I mean, just gameplay year over year, season to season, like it's very much solved in a lot of ways, which is why they're looking to change things up with, what is it, Behemoth and Apollo. They're hoping to, you know, present something fresh, a new take. And hopefully that spices things back up. But that is why there's like a desire for like a Destiny 3, by the way. It's like, you know, to just start fresh, to go through the process of solving the game again. All new content is reskin stuff, which is not great. Les, you come in here, you say comments like that, yet you go and play Destiny Rising for 6 hours a day, even skipping. I saw that you even skipped the most recent MAV game to play Destiny Rising, which is crazy to me because it's on mobile. You could play anywhere. You could play at the MAV game. Why skip it? Destiny 1 was ass. Destiny 1 was definitely not ass. You gotta look at it for the time frame of which it came out. It was confusing. And when I first played Destiny 1, like after I finished the campaign, which of course just took a day, beat the campaign, I was just like, is that it? I was kind of like waiting for the moment where like we have that super theatric, memorable Halo moments. You know, we had just come off the back of like Halo Reach, Noble 6, the final mission of Lone Wolf, where Noble 6 literally fights to the death. It was so good. It was a masterpiece, man. Truly a masterpiece. And then we played Destiny 1's campaign. It was like, what was this? But then we went into Crucible and we started doing some PvE stuff. And then the raid launch. And then when the raid launched, that's when it was like, oh shit, like this is something different. This is special. That's what solidified it for me for Destiny 1 was the first time we went into Volta class. And then like, it was also like the first real looter shooter that I've played. And so, you know, I never had that dopamine high. I had it with RuneScape, but like RuneScape's items were like items that you were like, okay, I'm going to go do a quest like Monkey Madness. It's going to take me, you know, a couple days to do or however long, but I know what my reward's going to be at the end of this, or I'm going to level up enough to get to this item. There were RNG drops, you know, did Corporal Beast or God, you know, was it God Wars? You definitely had like dopamine highs when things dropped from it, but it was just like all part of like the grind. And you know, that kind of got watered down because you're just grinding for everything. Whereas like Destiny, you could just literally play a Crucible game. You could go, you know, 0-15 and suddenly a Hawk Moon drops for you. You know, my brother who was playing Destiny 1 at the time, I don't know, he like finished a match at like 2-12 or some shit, and Hawk Moon drops for him, which pissed me off. And then not only that, like someone like me who's playing every single day, I couldn't get Hawk Moon to drop. I couldn't get these because it was just purely RNG. And so they were like very much coveted weapons that were just based on RNG, just based on luck. I don't know if the Destiny player base would get behind something like that anymore, because with so many different games now with loot that is, you know, obtainable and targeted, a pure RNG system people would rage over that. But at the time it worked. Whatever dropped for you in Destiny 1 was your entire identity. I would say, yeah, because RNG was so fickle and exotics were so rare for at least year one. You know, when an exotic dropped, it's not that you had to use that exotic only, but it was a good chance you may only had a handful of exotics to go in between outside of what Xur was bringing. You know what I mean? So like, last word for me, like that's what dropped for me. That's all I had. For as far as PvP goes. Eventually I would cycle that between that and Xur's Regime, but like those were it. Those were like my two main options for the longest time. And it's just because everything else was just like RNG based and we couldn't get to it. D1 had exotic bounties and they were terrible. Who here liked exotic bounties? They were so fucking rare. I loved exotic bounties. Dude, I thought they sucked ass. I never could get them. It took forever. We're talking about the same bounties, right? The year one exotic bounties that were just rare as hell. They were amazing. Let me ask y'all, there seems to be a certain group of people in here that were like big fans how rare certain things could be inside of Destiny 1. Would Uber exotics ever work in Destiny? Like something that rare, would it ever work? Yeah, I mean, you call it whatever, you call them mythics. If you play Diablo though, you know what I'm talking about. Like let me give you a point of reference here. Diablo 4, the first like, what was it, month that the game was out, I think there was only like 3 drops of an Uber exotic in the world. What was it of all Uber exotics, or just one? That's too rare. Yeah, but it sucks. It sucks because it's rarest. But imagine if you're one of the 2 people that had that. Oh my God, the flex, dude. Yeah, I think eventually they increased the drop rates for them, but it was still extremely rare.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.